Paulina, what's the latest so far?
It was actually neighbors and people that were driving by that saw the flames and the smoke, and that's when they called in the Lafayette Fire Department. The fate of that principal, the bus driver, and those teachers will be determined through his office. That is the levee that has been causing all the problems today. The National Guard volunteers, the sheriff's office, everyone has been on scene.
That search will continue into the night and into the early morning until they find the crash site and the body.
This sticker right here, it says Save Baby Site. You can actually drop off your child if you feel like parenthood is not for you. Imagine surviving war but being crippled by your own mind. Reoccurring nightmares and scenarios are all you see. Now, this reality is so common for many soldiers who return from tours overseas. I had the honor and the privilege to sit down with Platoon Sergeant Brian Marshall, who tells me about his struggle with post-traumatic stress disorder. Here is his story. Tucked away at a private camp, far from triggers, danger, or distractions, is where I meet Platoon Sergeant Brian Marshall. He's an Army vet.
Well, 18 years, 11 months, 28 days, but I wasn't counting. But yeah, I'm retired now. I didn't want to, but I had to, so.
Tell me about that day. He joined in 1990 and knew he'd be a lifer.
When you're done with IEDs, you're well needed everywhere. We get deployed a lot, first in, last out, as they call it.
The patches and pins on his uniform are from combat. They represent the men he's lost, saved, and befriended, but they are a reminder of his past and his present.
As far as, physically and, as far as your job, yeah, training, that's where it comes into play. Routines, train. That way it's like clockwork, you get hit, you know exactly what to do, boom, boom, boom.
Having done tours in Bosnia, Slovenia, Afghanistan, Kosovo, and Iraq, Brian is no stranger to death or loss. A traumatic brain injury during his last tour to Iraq got Brian discharged from duty. When his military routine stopped, Brian's life became chaotic.
The last suicide attempt I pretty much had to, and I knew I had to. That's when I started going to the VA a little bit.
He's on the right path now, but the post-traumatic stress he developed following his heroism overseas still sits deep inside him today.
The video's not slowed down. That's actually how slow we drive down the road. So.
And that is your Humvee?
Yeah. And see this little white spot here? That was their line of sight. That's when they know to push the button, to blow us up.
You're not in that situation anymore.
No, I'm not in that situation, but, it does get you inside a little bit to watch stuff like that, and because it's still something that you went through, but it's still in my brain anyway, so it's kind of there anyway.
By definition, post-traumatic stress disorder, post is after some sort of traumatic event. Someone develops a stress disorder or an anxiety disorder.
Living with PTSD is hard, but admitting he had a problem was even harder.
I knew I had some issues, but I didn't know what it was. But you drink, pretty much the only way I could go to sleep was get drunk.
A common way for people suffering with PTSD to try and deal with the problem without getting help. That's according to Dr. Kelly Pierce, a PTSD psychologist with the VA hospital.
Sort of the hallmark of PTSD is that, first of all, there are reliving symptoms. Okay. Dreams, nightmares, recurring intrusive distressing thoughts, flashbacks.
For 2 years, Brian lived disconnected from his family, friends, and inside his new reality.
I think they know they're stuck in the trauma, but they don't believe that their beliefs are maladaptive or inaccurate. Because, like I said, if you have a belief, you believe it to be true. So why question it?
Constantly reliving ghosts of battlefields and men he lost.
You tell a soldier to go do something and he gets killed. Is that on you? I take it personally.
And the what-ifs haunting his day-to-day activities.
The intrusive thoughts and with PTSD, the stuff that I seen or went through, whatever, most of it being the bad parts, obviously. There isn't a time in the day that I don't think about it. It's always there. It's just in my mind. I could be playing with my kids. I've had flashback while making love to a wife. That's an interesting one.
When he had enough, suicide seemed like the only option. 2 attempts, to be exact. What was going through your mind?
Done. Just done.
What were you feeling?
I was a damn good soldier. Then I went to, hey, you can't be a soldier no more because you got all these issues. That sucked. And then even in my own home, you know, I didn't feel like a good husband, father, person because I can't even remember crap. You know, it's just all that kind of stuff compounded, and then just not ever being able to sleep, and then having stupid flashbacks, and then having these thoughts in your brain that just never freaking go away.
His first encounter with the VA was not successful. Forced to continue therapy anyway because of his last suicide attempt, Brian looked for alternative ways to get his life back, joining different groups for veterans.
Just like you can kind of see here, you know, you've got Barry, you've got Webb. Webb's not a veteran, but, you know, his son was killed in Iraq, so he might as well be. We sit around a dang campfire out there, and we might drink a beer or two, but we call it therapy in itself, because it is.
As an outsider looking in, they are just a couple of men having a couple of beers. But the reality is,
even if I am in a restaurant, I'm still, you know, I got my back to the wall. I watch, I checking my exits, you know. And then I start role-playing in my head, okay, what happens when this bad guy comes through that door? You know, that's my life.
Yesterday I introduced you to Stephen Barnett. He's a second-time recovering heroin addict. With this growing heroin epidemic, today I'll show you what many like Stephen and those behind the badge are doing to help prevent Louisiana from becoming another name on the list.
The way that I'm living now and what's going on for me in my life is way more of a high than I've ever gotten.
Stephen Barnett is proof happiness can flow through your veins, and addiction is just a distant bully of destruction.
I knew what was out there for me. I knew that if I went back, the only thing that there was left was jail and death.
The terrible danger and destruction that these drugs can leave in their wake. It kills people.
91 people approximately per day die of opioid overdoses.
Stephen's battle with heroin has been a physical and mental struggle that's left his family broken, but not irreparable. Suffering alongside his family are the thousands of families across the country who have been affected by this killer.
We're working with, you know, the manufacturers of these drugs, practitioners, and even pharmacists. We're trying to get the word out to them to make sure these drugs aren't being overprescribed.
Acting United States Attorney Alexander Van Hook and Special Agent Brad Byerly are on the side of the law. They say although Louisiana ranks 10th in the country for opioid abuse, heroin statistics aren't hitting those same numbers like in other parts of the country just yet. However, they agree we run into a few problems when trying to gauge the severity of the problem.
We've got several problems with trying to figure out what the overdose rate is. We don't have a really good central repository, you know, to kind of figure that out. You have to go from corner to corner in each parish.
Chasing to find a solution rather than a Band-Aid.
Being addicted to opiates is like chasing a dragon. You're constantly seeking that first high.
The two groups joined together.
We have an outreach section, a demand reduction side of DEA, and we're getting out in front of the public. DEA and FBI in 2016 had a film.
Back and do it all over, I would definitely go back and say no.
They created called Chasing the Dragon. And we're regularly showing this film in schools and in town hall meetings.
The more people understand this problem, in our opinion, the better. 20%, it is estimated that 20% of high school students have abused prescription drugs.
They're all working toward one goal, preventing a lifetime of suffering.
Recovery comes first in everything. That's where I messed up last time, was I was like, I can miss a few meetings. I don't need this, I don't need that. I need my meetings. I need to be involved in a 12-step program. If I don't put my recovery first, then I don't have any of this stuff that I have. It immediately starts to fall off.